Structurally, Avatar Frontiers of Pandora is going to be instantly recognizable to anyone who has played a Far Cry game in the last decade.
Huge shocker! It's no secret most movie licensed games are garbage, and based on what I've seen and heard about this Avatar game, it looks like we're about to get more servings of movie licensed garbage. Brought to you by the Apple of video games, Ubisoft, where all their products are essentially the same. They gotta shoehorn towers into everything, they have to shoehorn the same exact mechanics into everything. It's fucking sad, quite frankly. I've never seen a AAA studio so creatively bankrupt as Ubisoft. Part of the problem is we keep buying their bullshit, and we keep holding them to a different standard than everyone else. I mean, why are they, such a huge studio, so much money flowing through that motherfucker, able to put out game after game after game, copy and paste bullshit, zero innovation, using the same exact features and mechanics across all their video games? For God's sake, they found a way to shoehorn towers into their racing game, The Crew. They just called it something else, like we wouldn't fucking notice. Nobody at Ubisoft ever stopped to think that maybe asking us to do the same exact shit in every one of their fucking games might get a bit tiresome, might get a bit repetitive, might make a motherfucker feel deja vu. I mean, seriously, how is this company, which is supposed to be one of the leaders in this industry, able to get away with this fucking bullshit time after time after time? Maybe I answered my own question, because they do have a ton of money. A ton of money to spread around to these media outlets, paying for advertisement spots, keeping them afloat, a ton of money to spread around to these fucking shill influencers to turn a blind eye and hype up their garbage. The more money Ubisoft seems to make, the worse their games end up becoming. Many of their most recent games are actually some of their most poorly received by us. I thought Valhalla was actually one of the worst Assassin's Creed games. I thought it was a far departure of what I would expect in an Assassin's Creed title. I know some of you liked it, and that's fair, but it seems like a lot of people just liked it because it was an open world game. But what good is an open world game if it's filled with just a ton of emptiness, a ton of nothing? And while the game did have fast travel, it is in my belief that you really shouldn't use that son of a bitch right away. Because it is an open world game, I think we should spend time exploring that motherfucker, all the way up to the boundaries of the map, seeing what that world has to offer. And good open world game designers will reward you for your efforts, stumbling across interesting landmarks, random events, nature doing nature things. But in Valhalla, I remember the more I explored, the more I felt like I was being punished for it. And that is because I felt the really interesting things in that open world were very far and few between. And for the most part, the side quests that I did end up discovering often boiled down to nothing more than following an NPC around, some really boring, brain-dead, tedious bullshit. And the next thing you know, I was using fast travel religiously. Once upon a time, Ubisoft were the trendsetters. Valhalla was the result of them chasing trends, because of the explosion of interest in Vikings anything around that time. Moving on to Far Cry, I think it peaked at 3. I thought the Blood Dragon DLC was also amazing. Some people think it peaked at 4. To each their own, but I think most of us can agree that it's been sliding backwards ever since. We don't even need to talk about Watchdogs, do we? Watchdogs Legions is pretty self-explanatory. Tall, heaping, steamy, stinky pile of shit, especially on console with the technical issues. To this very fucking day it has this nausea-inducing screen tearing. Oh, well, that's what you get for playing on console. How can you be such a corporate fucking cocksucker? Obviously, PC is the ultimate way to play video games, and that's how I prefer to play video games if I have a choice, right? However, that doesn't change the fact that they're putting these games up on Xbox, up on PlayStation, and if you can't get it to run respectively on those platforms, and if you are gonna put it on there anyways, maybe don't charge full price for it due to the fucking shortcomings. Bottom line is, it's bad business, and I can't believe how many of you motherfuckers love to defend bad business. Anyways, you guys might be thinking that with any game franchise, it's hard to put out the same level of awesomeness with each and every game. There's going to be a little bit of franchise fatigue or whatever, and that's fair. However, we're not talking about an old-ass franchise. We're talking about a fresh new IP in Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, already showing signs of recycled fucking ideas. Instead of lighting a fire to take control of a base, you're pulling a lever. The reviewer over at IGN that played a hands-on demo, I know, grain of salt with anything IGN, however, a lot of what he was saying was actually lining up with what I was seeing in the gameplay demo. He actually said one of the best parts, one of the most enjoyable parts, was actually stuff that he considered to be borrowed from Horizon.
You can craft different arrow varieties straight from the weapon wheel, refilling your quiver with suitable ammo on the fly. It feels a bit on the nose for Avatar to pilfer from the other Native American-inspired sci-fi with bows and mechs, but I can't deny that this was the more satisfying side of the otherwise underwhelming combat.
Being able to craft arrows on the fly, as well as being able to scan for weak points on these mechs. Very much in the spirit of Horizon Zero Dawn. Which might not be gameplay mechanics that are exclusive to Horizon. But let's be honest, they popularized them, and this is just one more case of Ubisoft chasing what's popular rather than creating something that's popular. How many times before walking up to plant, holding the X button down or whatever the fuck it is, gets old? Not to mention, you're going to be doing the same exact fucking routine, but instead of walking up to a flower and holding a button down, you're going to be walking up to an animal holding a button down.
Among the side activities on offer were animals tagged by RDA darts, which had to be slowly approached and soothed before the needle was plucked out. This was all achieved by simply holding down one button, and so didn't offer all that much challenge.
So we have two side quests that are essentially the same exact gameplay mechanic. How long before doing those steps over and over and over again before you're like, fuck it, I'm not doing this shit anymore? It's just another example of Ubisoft sprinkling all these fucking icons all over the map that represent the most mundane, tedious, busy work you've ever seen in a fucking video game that only the most devoted completionists will bother with. And the reason why, the exact fucking reason why Ubisoft does this is so they can make a bold claim to the world that our game is 100+ fucking hours. But to anyone paying attention, anyone that's not a fucking sheep, will know that only a small fraction, like 15% of those 100+ hours is actually worth your fucking time. Instead of rewarding their bullshit and pre-ordering this game, you should go and buy 3 indie games instead, and you'll still have money left over for a few vape cartridges, blunts, alcohol, or whatever the fuck it is you do to feel better about the shitty hands you got dealt in this fucked up simulation. I know I'm hoping I fucking respawn into a better one.
Weave between floating sky islands, nosedive along cliff edges, and fly into the sunset. Despite all that, I'm not quite as sold on travelling via Ikran as I am the on-foot movement. It feels less dynamic and oddly sluggish compared to the more nimble ground systems, and flight controls are a touch awkward.